So today I will talk about some of my thoughts on how to write a good resume and some tips how to perform in a job interview. So first is about resume. So everybody need a resume when try to looking for a position. It does not sound a difficult job, but there are so many common mistakes. In order to write a good resume, first you need to understand what the potential employers are looking for. Of course, different employers are looking for different skills, but there are some general qualities they're looking for a potential employee. Generally, employers, they want to hire a person who first is honest and is hardworking. They want a person, of course, technically competent, not only eager to keep learning, but also it will be a quick learner and be able to work effectively alone and in teams. So that you need to show that you are willing to share information with others. That is very important to be a team member. So in your resume, in all your job application materials, you want to provide the evidence that you can use to display these qualities. Okay, so these are some general qualities most employers are looking for. For resume, some students will overlook something. For example, one thing is it will be very important for the resume to include the right keywords, because nowadays many companies, many employers, they use software to search resumes using these keywords. So if you don't include the keywords, you will not make it through to have a chance to have your resume to actually be read by a person. So usually only after the resume have made it through the initial electronic pass, then it will have a chance to be read by a person. So very important thing is that in your resume, you want to make sure you will include these keywords. But how do you identify these keywords? The best way is to make sure that you study the job description, the job posting, to find the keywords, not only the exact posting for the position you are applying for, but also for about 10 other job posting for similar positions. So after you read these job posting, you will be able to identify the terms that come up frequently, and you want to use these terms. You want to incorporate these terms into your resume. You may think in terms of job titles, or name of products or companies or technologies or professional organizations. These are all possible keywords you want to include if they appear frequently in the job posting for similar positions that you are interested in. That is a trick, quite important. And when you try to include these keywords in your resume, maybe it's not a good idea to just list the keywords. Instead, it's better integrate them into sentences that describe your skills and accomplishments. So that's the best way to incorporate your keywords into a resume. Another thing is about the format of resume. So many students tend to use very fancy format, but nowadays fewer and fewer employers actually require a formatted resume. That even you have a very fancy, very, very good looking resume, you still want to always prepare a plain text resume. A plain text resume means you use very limited character set and have very little formatting. If you have very little formatting, then your resume can be stored in any database and can be read by any software. That will help increase your chance your resume actually be read. And also many students have confusion about probably the length of a resume. Of course, different employers have different policy, but I think no matter which position you're applying for, it is better to prepare at least two versions of your resume. One is the short version, another is a detailed version. So you always give your potential employer a chance to select. If they want a short one, you can provide short one. If they want a detailed one, you provide detailed one. A short one, I mean, usually it's better just a one-page length. For most students recently graduated, I think one page is enough to highlight your key accomplishments and your key skills. If the potential employer show some interest, you can provide the detailed version. But it's always a good idea to have a short version ready. So the short version, because it's just one page, so potential employers can have a look at it, can got the main idea of your key strengths, maybe just within 3 to 5 seconds when they're trying to select potential applicants through a lot of resume. Maybe they'll handle hundreds of them. So you want to keep your resume, your short version, very concise and highlight your stronger character. And for the format of the resume, usually there are 2 patterns for the order of the resume. The information that goes into the resume, you can either order it chronologically or by skills. So in a chronological resume, you use time as the organization pattern for each section, including your education or your experience, and discuss your responsibilities for each job you have led. And in a skills resume, sometimes it's also called a functional resume. You include a skills section in which you describe your skills and achievements. Different people have different preference for these 2 patterns, but usually if you have gaps in your employment history, or you don't have a lot of history to show, you may want to consider using a skill resume. I mean, organize your content by skills. But in both types of resume, sometimes you need to use your job history. General rule is that you present the most recent job, your most recent experience first. No matter it is a chronological resume or skills resume, you want to present your most recent experience first. And also sometimes students will forget to include a summary of qualification in the resume. So in a summary of qualification, you use a very short, very concise paragraph to highlight 3 or 4 most important skills or accomplishment of yourself. So here I put an example here. So put a summary there is allow the readers of your resume to catch the most important part in a few seconds. It's just like an abstract of your paper. Okay, if they want to look for more, if they are interested in your summary, they will look for more details in your resume. So this provides a better reading experience for potential employers. Here is an example of the summary of qualification. You already put it maybe on head or in obvious place in your resume, so people can read it first. And the example here says 6 years of experience creating testing documents to quantify production programs, the summarize of your experience, and 4 years of experience running QA tests on software. Then summarize the skills, bilingual English and Italian, security clearance. Okay, so this highlight your key skills and your key experience. That will save people's time. If this is buried in a very long, detailed resume, sometimes your reader will not be able to catch the most important character of you. And when you describe your skills, you better focus on the problem solving and accomplishment. You better provide some data. So the most compelling evidence that you would be a good hire is a solid record of identifying problems and providing solutions. If you can quantify them, it is better, because numbers tell the story. Many people believe in numbers. Try to present your accomplishments as quantifiable data. In the same time, you want to always tell the truth. To many people, maybe most people, tend to lie and exaggerate when they describe themselves. Okay. That is natural, human nature. But human resource personnel or the employers, they are very experienced in this. They can see through different kind of exaggerations or lies. So the best strategy is to tell the truth. Employers always want to hire somebody who they can trust. Many companies will do their own investigation. They will maybe even hire investigator to verify the information you provide about yourself. So it is very important to always tell the truth. Also, because nowadays is the internet age, so it is very good. In addition to your resume, it is a very good idea to create a strong online presence. because many companies, maybe they will do a little bit investigation before they try to hire somebody. Yeah, some of this investigation will be online. So you want to make sure your online presence is professional. Okay. Sometimes a good idea to create your own website. So that will function as an online headquarters. So all of the other online presence can be linked back to your own website, and make sure you're active in LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, all these social medias, because nowadays many employers that do use social media to identify a potential hire. So make sure you demonstrate a professional appearance, or you try to establish your professional brand in all your online presence. That is quite important nowadays. And in addition to that, in addition to your resume, to your online presence, you also want to practice the elevator pitch. Why is it called elevator pitch? That means it is a very brief oral summary of your credentials. If you ride an elevator with somebody else, usually the time period just like less than 20 seconds. That's why it's called an elevator pitch. So if you are with somebody, some potential employers, riding an elevator together, you have chance to introduce yourself. But you need to be always prepared. How would you introduce yourself? How would you summarize your credentials? Less than 20 seconds long. Okay, it should be brief enough that you can say it if you find yourself in an elevator with a potential employer. It may be just 2 to 3 sentences, and make sure you catch the main points, how you want to present yourself, to summarize your key skills and key accomplishments in just 2 to 3 sentences. Okay. So that is some tips about how to prepare your resume and how to establish your professional brand. And the next step, of course, is a job interview. The main purpose of your resume is not directly to get a job. Usually the main purpose of the resume is to get the chance to do a job interview. But first of all, before we go to the job interview, we want to understand the main objective of a job interview. Sometimes you need to do a presentation, especially for academic position. But the number one objective of a job interview is not to demonstrate your competence, because things you already been selected to do a job interview. That means your background, your experience, or your skill already meet the requirement of the employer. So this is not the number one reason they want to interview you. So number one reason they want to interview you is that they want to make sure you are the right fit for the position. So in case if you are invited to do a presentation, for example, if you apply for an academic position, you want to present your research work, it should be quite different from your defense of your PhD dissertation. It's not another defensive work. You need to tailor all the content, and you want to demonstrate your ability to contribute to that institution, and your ability and your willingness to collaborate as a potential colleague. In your interview or in your presentation, what matters most is not a qualification, because you already passed the first resume stage. But now what matters most is your maturity, your personality, whether does it fit with the institution. Yeah, remember the fact that you are invited to do the interview means that the employer has already accepted your qualification. So now it's time to focus on something more specific. So if you are invited to give a job talk, a presentation, so here's my suggestion: is better include 3 parts in your presentation, in your interview. The first part is you want to make sure you talk about not only yourself, but also you need to talk the employer. It's about the institution, about the position being advertised. That is before you even talk about your qualifications. You better talk about them first. So there are 2 reasons to do that. First, talk about them will demonstrate your enthusiasm for the job. Let's tell the employer that you are serious about the job. You really did your homework. And if they hire you, you will likely stay here. Because most employers, when they hire some new person, they will invest a lot of to the new person. They don't want to hire a person who just who will stay here just for a few years then left, because they have already made an investment in you. So they need to know that you're really interested in job. You need to demonstrate your enthusiasm. And second, talk about them, also demonstrate your knowledge on the employer, your knowledge on the institution, and also demonstrate your ability to do some basic research. You need to do some research on the employer themselves, to research their challenges and their problems and their needs. So in this part, you want to imagine that you are already part of them. Imagine that if you are already hired, how will you perform? So in order to do that, before you go to an interview, you need to research the position. You need to research as much as possible. You want to find out what is going on in the institution. What is the general goal of the institution, in the department or the college? And you want to identify at least one challenge they are facing, hopefully related to the position, why they post this new position. What goal do they want to achieve? You provide your own vision for the future for the employer. But the key is to demonstrate that you have done your homework. You are really enthusiastic for the job. And you want to make your audience believe that you understand their goal and you are eager to make a contribution. And of course, this also demonstrates you did invest a lot of time for your interview. That not only show your enthusiasm, but also show your ability to tailor your talk to that specific position. And then in the second part, you can talk about yourself, and you can highlight your strengths that relevant to this specific position. So the key here is that you don't need to talk everything that you have done. You don't need to prove that you have many skills. You only want to highlight skills that are relevant. Okay, you want to be very selective and focused. And you want to make sure the audience can understand your work in a limited amount of time. So usually the job interview, you have limited amount of time. So sometimes your work, your research, what you have done is quite complex. You must be very selective. So at least you want to make sure your introduction and your summary is understandable to most of your audience, of your interviewers. If you apply for academic job, the key is to demonstrate that you are a major player in your field, in your specific field, to demonstrate you have connections in your discipline and you understand the funding mechanisms you might go for, and you are independent, you have your own ideas, and you could present them energetically. And in this part, maybe it's also a good idea to include some personal stories. So adding some human elements, and thus make your presentation more influential. And the last, maybe the most important, last, after you talk about them, after you talk about you want to talk about the fit. The key idea of the job interview is to persuade the employer that you are the right fit for this particular environment, for this particular position. You are already qualified since you have this chance. They agree to interview you. You're already qualified. The next stage is it a good fit? In order to prove your fit, you need to demonstrate your collegiality. Okay, that means you can cooperate with the people here in that institute. So in order to do that, you need to know your audience. You also need to do a little bit research about the people who will be working with you if you are hired. It may be a good idea to search online to find some inspirations in other people's work, in your potential colleagues' work, or connect your own disciplinary interest with the local community outreach. The idea is that you want to demonstrate that how your work, your experience might bridge with some other colleagues in the same institute. Okay, how can you fit into that institution? How can you cooperate with other people? That's the key. how you fit into this position. So in summary, in a typical interview or a job talk, it's not all about you. Okay, so the key is that you need to understand the employer. Okay, you need to speak to them based on who they are and what they do and how they define the job, as. Okay. If you don't care enough to do that, you don't deserve the job. The key is you need to do your homework to study the specific job. Another thing that's very commonly after the interview, you will be provided a chance to ask questions. Of course, you need to prepare some questions you want to ask. And my suggestion that one of the best questions you can ask is that you ask them, if I am hired, how would you evaluate my performance after 1 year? How would you know hiring me is a good decision? What kind of measure will you use to evaluate my performance? This would be a very good question to ask. This will show that you really think about this position and want to perform well in this position.